morning, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, traders? What's going on? Welcome back and happy Money Monday. Go ahead and hit me with a big old good morning. Let's feel the energy. Let's get hyped up. Let's get chat fired up this morning, guys. Hit me with a big old Alpha Day Trading good morning and happy Money freaking Monday. Woo! Am I excited to be back, guys? I am excited to be here. I'm excited for week number 2 of August. I'm ready to crush it with you guys. I mean, last week was a killer freaking week. Market was hot. Market was on fire. Large cap, small cap, doesn't matter. Market's moving. Market's hot. So much opportunity. And we saw a lot of big time profits inside of Profit Chat last week. You guys were eating it. You guys were crushing it. My goodness. I mean, Profit Chat was on freaking fire last week, right? And then we saw a lot of traders just hit some milestones as well, which is amazing. We had traders coming in with their first consistent green week, their biggest consistent green week ever. We saw traders crushing their daily goal, 2x, 3x. I mean, last week, a lot of you guys hit some amazing milestones. You guys are moving the needle. You guys are making it happen. You're making money. And it's amazing to see. So that's why I'm fired up to be here, because I know we have tons of opportunity in the market. And I love seeing you guys move the needle every single day. So let's get with it. Let's crush it. Let's make today a great day. And let's make it happen. So officially diving into the pre-market rundown, where I will review your stocks for the day and make sure that you guys are prepared, ready to rock and roll, ready to attack this market. So let's not waste any time, baby. Let's dive into the pre-market rundown. Let's start reviewing those stocks, and then we'll dive into the morning game plan sesh, where I'm going to talk to you guys about Tesla today. Tesla's on my watch list. We got Meta on the watch list as well. We're going to be watching SVFD, MF, and then maybe TTOO. We'll talk about those 3 small caps as well, and then we'll dissect the SPY and make sure you guys are all set, ready to rock on the SPY as well. Yeah, man, Anthony, it's time to duplicate and make that money. That's what it's all about, dude. That's your goal. Your goal, your intention, your main focus right now is what? Do exactly what you did last week to replicate last week into this week. If you can have a big, consistent green week last week, you can do the same exact thing this week. Stay consistent, manage your risk, build your plans, stay focused, be aware of everything that you did last week that contributed towards your success. And let's replicate it. That's what it's all about. If we can do it last week, we can do it this week. We just have to have those intentions set, and we have to be aware of what we are going to be doing. And again, just think it through. What did we do last week? What do we need to be doing today and this week to have the same results, if not better results, right? So that's the goal. That's a game plan, and we're going to make it happen. So again, good morning, everybody. Until we actually see a couple tickers come through, any stocks come through, I'm just going to go ahead and dive into some of my stocks for the day and make sure you guys are all set, ready to rock. So we'll save the SPY until maybe 9:15, 9:20. Make sure everybody's here. So let's go ahead and start with the small caps. Let's go ahead and dissect the penny stocks. All right. And we got SVFD number 1. So a couple things that I want to be looking at here on SVFD. The main thing is I want to see if we can hold above, this level of support, right? We have all of this prior resistance right around this 129, 130 on SVFD, right? We have all this post-market resistance. We broke above it, failed to hold, turned back into resistance. We dropped, here in pre-market, right into that level of resistance. We dropped, came right back into that level, right? We had a little bit of rejection, but then we actually broke that 129 level of resistance, and now we're pulling back into it as support, right? So if we can see this set up for a nice break and retest, I would like to possibly get long on SVFD, right? It's a simple break over 129 resistance, and now we're simply pulling back to retest 129 resistance as 129 support. So if we do hold this level of support, we can start to see buyers really move on back in and then see that next leg up. Where could we see SVFD get to, right? Back up into these pre-market highs at 168, right? If we're ever able to break 168, we have great potential to $2, and then we have potential all the way up towards around 215, right? And I'm just looking at all of this daily resistance here on SVFD, right around 2 to 215 is going to be your main level of resistance today here for the stock. So really comes down to can we hold this support level? Can we hold above 129? If so, the next step is, are buyers moving back in? Do we see that within the volume? Is it bouncing? Is it starting to move? Is there good price action? Do we see, buyers present and buyers starting to move back in to the stock at this level of support? If so, that's going to start to confirm entries to get long off this level of support for the next leg up. And again, we have room to 168. If we're able to break 168, we have room to 2 and then 215. Okay. If we are unable to hold this 129 support level, we do have this trend line, right, that could hold on up. But if that trend line cracks, you're coming back down to $1, right? So go ahead and throw up $1 as like your next main level of support. Right now, 129 is the support level you would really like to see hold on up right now at this point in time. But if we fail to hold 129, we don't have entries. It's probably to come down and hit the trend line. And if we ever crack the trend line, the next best level of support is going to be back down at $1. So again, I do think SVFD has good potential. If we hold this 129 and get confirmation to get long, let's get long. Again, we have room to 168, 2, and then 215. But again, if we fail to hold 129, right, we're not going to cross it off and take it off the watch list. We could absolutely see the stock come down and then have a nice $1 bounce today here on SVFD. So I would keep it on watch, even if it fails to hold 129, because again, you could see the stock drop on off pretty fast, pretty hard, right down to $1, and then see a nice $1 dip buy setup here with SVFD. So let's keep this one on high watch, guys. Great potential. This stock is, up 100% right now at this point in time. Nice low float play as well. It's like 4 million in float. So we know the stock could really rip and run when the market opens. And we're trading really good volume. On average, you trade like less than 600,000 shares today. We're trading almost 10 million shares with SVFD. So again, I think there's a lot of great potential. There's a lot of hype here. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of volume. And yeah, if we open on up and ideally we're above this 129 level, we can see a nice bounce and a nice rip back up to those pre-market highs, and then maybe $2 and then 215. So tons of great potential with SVFD. I think MF has a lot of great potential as well, right? MF was actually one of Friday's top gainers. And, that's something that we're seeing a lot of stocks rip and then they get, 2 to 3 days worth of movement to the upside. So, check out TTOL. It was one of Wednesday's top gainers, right? We saw a lot of that momentum bleed into post-market, into pre-market, and then into Thursday, where we ripped all the way up to 45 cents, right? Yeah, we ended up fading and falling on Friday, but now we're starting to bounce and move up again. So we're seeing a lot of prior day movers, right, get 2 to 3 days worth of movement before they start losing the attention, losing volume, and really start fading and falling. So go back and look at some of Thursday's top gainers. Go back and look at some of Friday's top gainers. And let's see if any of these stocks are moving and setting up today, because we could see some of that momentum and some of that action bleed into today as well. And that's something we're seeing with TTOO. That's something we're seeing with MF, right? Again, one of Friday's top gainers that's gapping up this morning, massive, right? It's up another 43%. It's trading 15 million shares. And on average, it trades 2 mil. So we got a lot of volume still bleeding into today, right? It's a prior day mover. It's up 40%. It's a nice low float stock. It can rip and run. So I want to keep the stock on high watch, guys. And the area that I want to see it hold above today is going to be a lot of this resistance from Friday, right? We came up and hit a high a day at like 250, but you saw a lot of initial resistance right around like 238. And that 238 initial resistance was validated here in post-market with these post-market highs. Okay, and then it was validated when he broke through that zone, pulled back into that zone, and then held as support. So this big blue box is going to be all of this resistance from Friday into post-market, into this pre-market support here on MF. All right, so this is going to be the area of support that we want to see MF stay above. So again, we want to see MF open, ideally pull back into this zone of support and hold on up. That's simple, right? Let it open. Let it come back down towards around, 238 to 250 support. If we come into the zone, we bounce, we hold, and we start to see great volume and we see buyers moving back in. Yeah, I want to get long because this stock has great potential to rip back up towards around 350 into these highs in pre-market. Then we have potential to spike back up to those pre-market highs of 383. So from 240 to 250, back up towards around 350, maybe even 380, there's well over $1 of potential to the upside, here on MF. And if MF ever breaks, 383, it's got room to 450 today, right? And go back and look at the daily here on MF. We can clearly see that if we're able to break that pre-market high of 383, like the next main level of resistance is all the way up into these daily lows, these daily highs, lows, right? You see that 450 was hit one time, low of day, two times, high a day, right? Three times, high a day, the fourth time, low a day, prior to some pretty big moves as well. So 450 is going to be like a key level of resistance, and that's going to be the level that we could see MF get to if we're able to break over that pre-market high of 383. So I want to keep this one on high watch, guys. There's a lot of great potential because if we come down and hold that lower level of support, guess what? Stops go under support. Our first target gives us, right? If we're going to put our stops under support, maybe like 225 stops, right? Our first target gives us nearly a 4-to-1 setup. Up to those pre-market highs, you're looking at a 5-to-1 setup. If the stock is able to rip all the way to 450, that's potentially a 7-to-1 setup, just waiting for MF to open, pull back into the support level, and then just validate it's going to hold that support level. Get in, stops right below support, and you have 3 great realistic targets to the upside. So overall, MF needs to be on high watch, a lot of great potential, and I think MF can be one of our top stocks today because it was Friday's top gainer. And like I said, the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing a lot of gainers, and that momentum and volume bleed into the second day, the third day, and these stocks just keep ripping and running and exploding. MF could be one of those stocks that explode again to the upside today. So keep it on high watch. Definitely one of my top 3 guys. And then TTOO, right? I think TTOO has some pretty decent potential, right? We were really watching this area of support here with TTOO on Thursday, right? And we were looking at 32-cent entries for the leg on up towards around 45 cents. It worked out beautifully. And then we see this level of support hit several times, right? 32 cents, support, right? Low of day on Thursday, support, nice big rip. Come down Thursday post-market into that support level, we bounce. Come back down into support, we bounce. Then we fall into the zone, right? And then we actually see the upper level turn resistance. So what was support at 32 cents, Friday turned into a lot of resistance. And we came down and started to close this gap here on TTOO, right? We had that gap down around like 28 cents. But now what are we starting to see with TTOO? We're getting back above that 28-cent level, and we see it turning into support. And now we're trying to get back above 32 cents as well. Now, I mean, yes, we are struggling. We are trying to break. We are currently failing to hold that level. We may see it come on back down today. That's very realistic if we can't break 32 cents. But I just want to see if we can actually break above 32 cents at some point today and see it turn into support. If we can regain this level of support, prior resistance, right, on TTOO and hold 32 cents, I mean, there's great potential to see the stock rip back up into those Thursday highs, right? And Thursday's highs are around 45 cents. So is it like my number one stock for the day? No. Right? Is it a stock that, I want to look at over MF or over SVFD? Not necessarily, but there's good potential. And there's good potential because, again, it was a hot stock on Wednesday. Momentum bled into Thursday. It was hot again. The stock ripped and ran. Yeah, it pulled back a little bit, but we're gapping up in pre-market. It's a prior day mover. And again, prior day movers are continuously moving day over day over day. So I want to keep this one on watch. If we can break and hold 32 cents, again, I think there's great potential back up to like 37 cents, back up towards around 41, and then all the way back up towards around 45 cents here on TTOO. So again, I wouldn't touch it until it breaks, pulls back and holds 32 cents. If we see that setup and we see that play out, that's when I start considering to get long for the next leg on up here on TTOO. All right, guys. So those are going to be my top 3 penny stocks. Okay, you got SVFD that's actually holding 129, and SVFD right now is starting to bounce off that 129 support level. We talked about MF. We know exactly what to expect. Then we have TTOO as well. These are my top plays. Okay, I want to talk about just real quick, let you know that I'm watching it and why I'm watching it. And if you guys need a further, more like detailed explanation, I'll dive into it. But I'm watching AMC for a possible moving average squeeze on the daily. we're starting to see a decent little moving average squeeze here on AMC on the daily chart, right? We're getting stuck between the 200 SMA and we're actually grinding that 20 EMA, right? So we can see here that we have 200 SMA resistance, but we also have 20 EMA support. And what we could see is AMC continue to grind in between these two levels, where the 200 SMA is holding the stock down as resistance, while the 20 EMA is holding the stock up as support. This could create what we call a daily moving average squeeze, where the stock is consolidating, getting squeezed in between these two moving averages, and then eventually it explodes. It makes a big move. Most of the time on the daily, when criteria is met and we're curling and we're coming off lows, 80% of the time that squeeze, that pop is to the upside. That's why we like these moving average squeeze setups. They're high probability, great long setups from the daily. We've seen them play out a lot of times, and we've taken a lot of these trades as well. I mean, what was the last stock that we took a moving average squeeze on, right? It was Carvana, CVNA. And again, look at where Carvana did. It was getting held down by the 200 SMA, right? The 20 was holding it up as support, and eventually it squeezed. It popped to the upside, right? We were making entries around $15. The stock just hit $57 2 weeks ago. We were getting in at $15.80 on the moving average squeeze, right? And we knew that the probabilities were a pop and a squeeze to the upside, number one, because how we're curling off these lows, right? Criteria was met. And then again, it was like 55% shorted. So that was another, factor as to why we were taking that trade, not just the moving average squeeze. But I mean, look at AMC. It's doing the same thing. It's curling off these lows. It's inside of this moving average squeeze formation. And so it's absolutely worth watching, right? I'm not saying it's going to set up today and squeeze today. I'm saying, hey, it has potential. It's setting up for that possible squeeze. And if we start to see the squeeze and the volume move in and the pop over the 200 SMA, guys, I want to keep this one on high watch. There's a lot of great potential to see this thing back up towards around 623 and then maybe back up towards around like the 730s here on AMC. So high watch, guys, for the daily moving average squeeze there on AMC. But keep in mind, we do have earnings tomorrow. And so earnings may be a factor that really helps this moving average squeeze play out. So we'll definitely keep this one on watch and see if it sets up for us this week. And then you got one kind of on MNK. You're really stretching it on MNK because you've really pushed through the 50 quite a few times, and you see how the 50 is kind of curling straight down. That's why I don't think this one's as fantastic as like AMC, right? Because the 50 is like curling down. When you take a look at, like AMC, the 50 is starting to smooth, right? The 50 is smoothing up underneath these candles as support, and then you got the 20 holding it as support. You kind of see the 50 smoothing out. If you look at MNK, the 50 is still kind of like pointing down, which does take away from like the probability. So this is a stretch. This is a back burner, but I still think it's worth watching to see if it if it ever starts to get some more volume and some more action to the upside here on MNK. So definitely a back burner, definitely stretching this one, but it's worth watching alongside of AMC. All right. And again, these are back burner swing trade ideas, and we'll just keep them on watch. Some option plays for today, guys, right? Some option plays. What am I looking at? Meta and Tesla. Meta, the same technicals as last week. I'm waiting for Meta to start filling the daily gap. That's it. Meta needs to crack below 309.86, right? So at any point today, if we can see Meta falling below that 309.86 and then staying below that level as resistance, we've officially entered this daily gap zone. And we could start to really drop on off to close this daily gap, okay? First target to the downside will be the 20 EMA, and the 20 EMA is at 306.41. So 306.41 would be the first target to the downside. And then we're just looking to see if Meta can continue the fade and fall, eventually crack below that 20 EMA and really close the gap and validate the gap fill, close the gap down around 302. So that would be the final target here on Meta, right? Would be to close this daily gap down around this 302 level. Okay. So as far as like intraday confirmation goes, what do I need to see to like get in? I need to see Meta falling below 309.86, pushing back up, retesting 309.86 as resistance, and then starting to curl on over and have that leg down. if you guys are wondering, like, okay, what would that confirmation look like? CRM on Friday, where we were looking for that gap level, right? We have this gap, this blue box with these green lines. Okay, that's my daily gap level here on CRM. All we're looking for the stock to do is to get below that upper level and then stay below it as resistance, right? And this was really good confirmation here on CRM right at the start of the day, where we opened below that level inside of that daily gap zone and we held as resistance and we had a nice little drop. We came on up, you took a little bit of heat, but you still continued to drop on down. Now, did you close the entire gap that day? You did not. But again, you gapped down the next day and you closed the gap on Friday. So, I mean, overall, from entry to target, it took 24 hours, but these levels were honored, right? These levels that you see right here on CRM, this blue box, the upper green line, the lower green line, that's how I map out daily gaps. So you can see that these levels were identified on the daily. And then look at how well respected they were intraday. Day one resistance to start filling the gap. We closed the gap nearly to the penny. We bounced, came back up to the top end of that gap level, and then got rejected for another short. So you had a gap fill bounce strategy. You had a gap fill rejection strategy. You can see that these daily levels were honored, 80, 90% of the time to the penny, right? To the penny rejection. Yeah, you took some heat here, but you still failed and you moved lower. You came down, you closed the gap, you came back up, got rejected off the upper gap level. So that's how valid and how strong these gap levels can be. And that's why I put a lot of focus and emphasis around gap levels when we have them on stocks. And so with Meta, guys, I'm putting a lot of emphasis around Meta because, hey, this is a gap level here on the daily. And we can see how valid these levels can be and how clean the setups are, right? And how you can take these trades with little to no drawdown. And again, 80, 90% of the time, they play out beautifully, right? And when they don't play out, your stops are nice and tight. So that's why I like Meta, is we have a massive gap here. And if we fall below this upper gap level at 309.80, it's right around like 309.80, and we stay below it as resistance, hey, I want to get short down to where? First target, 20 EMA. That's right at 306.41. And then to actually close the gap down around 301.94. So call it 302 here on Meta. Want to keep this one on high watch. And then that brings me to Tesla. I mean, Tesla could be closing this daily gap here soon, right? We are rolling on over. We are fading and falling. And Tesla may be coming down to fill this gap at some point, right? We're really far off compared to Meta, right? Meta is literally 3 points away from a possible daily gap fill strategy, okay? Tesla is a lot further off. Tesla is like 13 points off, right? So Tesla's got a lot of time. But there are things that I notice that we could see that gives us a reason to get in prior to actually closing this daily gap. So if Tesla today ideally can open below, which right now it looks like we may be opening below Friday's low of day and Friday's close. So you see this lower blue box that I have, this zone of support, resistance. That's the daily, right? That comes right from the daily. That's Friday's low of day and Friday's close. That's it. So Friday's low of day, Friday's close is between 253.12 and 253.80. Okay, so if we're above that level, we want to see it hold support, right? If we're below that level, we want to see it turn resistance. So with Tesla, looks like we're going to be opening below that level. So if we can open below that level and have Tesla just bounce a little bit at the start of the day into this zone of resistance, I want to start thinking about getting short on Tesla for the next leg down, right? And see Tesla crack below 250. That would be amazing, right? If we can see Tesla open and say bounce at 250, right? Because 250 to 250.50 is some like really solid support here on Tesla, right? 250 is psychological support. And then you also have Wednesday's low of day at 250.50. So if Tesla can like open above 250 to 250.50 and have an initial bounce at the start of the day into that zone of resistance, and we start to roll on over, I want to be getting short on Tesla back down into that 250 level. And then eventually I think Tesla could crack 250 and then check out the daily. If we crack that 250 level, where do we really have room to go down to? I mean, into this gap level, right? Which where it is 240.86. That's the upper end of that gap level is 240.86. So yeah, I think if Tesla can ever crack below 250, I think we have great potential down to that 240.86 level. And then if we ever see Tesla, I'm not saying this is going to happen today, right? We could see this bleed into tomorrow, Wednesday, the end of the week, next week, right? But if we eventually see it coming on down into that 240.86 level, the next thing we need to see is just a crack and a hold below that gap level to actually be able to see Tesla come down and close that daily gap in the low 235s, right? Right around 235.24. So you can see that, hey, we don't have to wait for Tesla to fall below and stay below 240.86 prior to getting a trade, right? If we open around 250, bounce on up into the zone of resistance between 253.11 and 253.80, and we are topping on out, we're rolling on over, and we have a reason to get short, we can be getting short way up here, taking some profit around 250, and then holding a runner to see if this bad boy ever does close the gap this week. So want to be getting involved up towards around resistance if Tesla gives it to us, right? But Tesla is a funny stock. Tesla's going to do what Tesla wants to do, and maybe it doesn't bounce back into that zone. Maybe Tesla just right below 250, and then, hey, comes back into 250 and holds below it as resistance. If we ever see that take place, that's still another great idea to get short for a crack and retest off 250 resistance. So there's a couple of different ways that we could see Tesla set up and give us confirmation to take a trade. We just got to wait for it. That's it. But I like Tesla. I like where it's at. I like how it's moving in pre-market. And I like the daily. I see a lot of daily potential to see some upcoming big moves on Tesla. So it's definitely worth watching here intraday and getting prepared. So that's going to be my second and final large cap play for today. Number one, Meta looks fan-freaking-tastic. Just like it did last week. I still want to keep this one on high watch. And then good old Tesla for today as well. A couple back burners. You got Baba. If Baba sets up, I'll let you know. And then I actually am going to watch CRM as well. CRM is a back burner if it sets up. But we're not going to really dive deep into CRM because it's a stretch. Only if it really starts setting up will I bring it back to your guys' attention and review it at that time. But right now, it's just one of my back burners. And then BABA, same thing. It's one of my back burners. If it ever starts setting up, I'll bring it to your attention. We'll review it, break it down, get you guys up to speed, and you'll be all set. But Tesla, taking a deep dive because Tesla gets, a lot of my focus today. And then Meta, taking a deep dive because Meta gets a lot of my focus today as well. And again, just to recap, you got SVFD, one of our top penny stocks today. You got MF, one of our top penny stocks. Then you got TTOO, one of our back burner penny stocks. And then if you guys have any stocks you want reviewed, type them up inside of chat. I have not seen anything so far inside of chat. So if there's any other pennies that you want reviewed, we definitely take a look at those pennies. All right. And I know PRZO is moving up. So if we have some time, we'll take a look at PRZO and then FOXO as well. But let's take a deep dive into the SPY, guys. All right. The SPY. First area that I want to be watching is this zone of resistance between 448.78 and 449.09. So again, that zone of resistance, again, is between 448.78 up to 449.09. And we can clearly see that this is going to be a key level of prior resistance, prior support. Go back and look at Thursday. Look at all of that resistance. Then it turned into support. Comes back down. Support, support, support. Friday, pre-market support, support. Friday, low of day initially, support. Pre-market today, resistance. We see how many times that level's been hit. It's a key level. So that's your line in the sand. That's your make or break for the SPY. If the SPY is able to push through that zone and regain it as support, well, the SPY is most likely going to bounce today. Where to? Your next level of resistance is going to be 250 because 250 is psychological, right? So 250 is a price target, but your main level is 250.81. Going back into Thursday's high a day where we had a shit ton of resistance and support there on Friday as well. Again, back up towards around 250.81. And that's if we're able to break and regain this zone as support and see a nice bounce. So that's going to be what we need to see to take SPY calls today up to 250 and then 250.81. Okay, but if we open in the next 13 minutes under this zone, come into it, and fail to break through it, and we see that it is strong key resistance, guess what we want to do? We want to be playing puts. Where to? Friday's low of day and Friday's close, which I also marked up with a zone, right? Not just those solid line levels, right? Not just a solid level, a zone, right? And that zone is going to be Friday's low of day and Friday's close on the SPY. So if we open on up, push into this upper zone of resistance, right? Your line in the sand, right? I mean, I could even color this box differently so you guys can see that this is our line in the sand box, right? Line in the sand box. I like it. If we open below that level, push into it and its resistance, and we're rolling on over, hey, we're going to get short down to yesterday. Oh, not yesterday, but Friday's low of day and Friday's close. You're on the SPY. Okay. And if the SPY ever cracks below Friday's low of day and Friday's close, I think the SPY starts to close this gap because we're really close to it, guys. I mean, we're really, really close to this gap. Okay, so that would be like the next area that I see the SPY coming down to if we start falling below Friday's low of day and Friday's close. Okay, we can come down towards around 445 on the SPY prior to bouncing. But if we ever see the SPY falling below, right, that 445 level, and then retesting it as resistance, we're officially inside of this daily gap zone. We're getting intraday confirmation to play the shorts for a daily gap fill down to 443 on the SPY. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you can clearly tell I want the short more than the long, right? Like, there's so much more potential to the short side compared to the long side. And the technicals suggest, right, more downside leading up to CPI and PPI this week. So seeing a lot of this momentum from last week bleed into this week makes a lot of sense because you don't have a lot of big name earnings. I mean, you do, but not like the last couple of weeks where we had AMD, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Microsoft, right? We don't have any like big name earnings that could really move the SPY and the Qs like something like NVIDIA can, something like Meta, one of those top 10 holdings. You do have some big name earnings, but nothing like the last couple of weeks. You don't really have a whole lot in the economic calendar until Thursday and Friday, right? Thursday, you have CPI. Friday, you have PPI. So you don't really have at this point in time a strong catalyst that would hold the market up and allow it to bounce. For example, right? You had a lot of downside last week. And I do believe, being that a lot of this data is towards the end of the week, that we can see some of this momentum from last week bleed into the first part of this week and continue to see the market drop a little bit. Right? That would be my expectations. That's not a prediction. That's my expectations, just based on the data that's in front of me. What happened last week? How did we close last week? Pretty strong, pretty weak, with a lot of downside momentum. Do we have anything happening today that could cause the market to hold on up and bounce? No, we don't. Tomorrow, no. Wednesday, no. Thursday, Friday, yes. Right? We have PPI, CPI later in the week. So with that being said, it's like I don't see anything coming up that would tell me ahead of time, like, hey, the market could hold, the market could bounce, and maybe have a slight reversal. I think some of that momentum could bleed into this week to the downside and maybe come down and close this gap ahead of CPI and PPI data Thursday, Friday. But again, want to make sure that I put myself in check. I'm not bullish. I'm not bearish. I'm neutral. The market wants to bounce and rip. I'll take it long. The market wants to dump. I'll take it short. Okay, I'm not going to be so bullish that I miss a short setup or vice versa. So I'm neutral, right down the middle, right? Whatever the market wants to do, the market's going to do it. But again, like I said, if we open on up and can't break through the zone, we have room back down the Friday's low of day and Friday's close. And then if we ever fall below that level, you're coming down to fill this daily gap. And it's very, very realistic that we see that daily gap filled ahead of CPI and PPI data, right? So again, you're lying in the sand just to make sure you guys are on point. 448.78 up to 449.09. That zone is your line in the sand. It's either going to be, support for the long, or it's going to be resistance for the short. You can make a decision at the zone if you see something setting up, if you get confirmation to take a trade. So that's your line in the sand on the SPY. And we got a lot of great potential here today, guys. All right, a lot of great potential. More potential if it sets up shorts. but still good potential if we get the long setup today on the SPY guys. And that's it, baby. That's it. You guys are all set. We got 8 minutes. Do you guys have a stock? Right? We talked about Meta, Tesla. We talked about SVFD, MF, TTOO, right? The 2 back burner swing trades, and then making sure you guys are all set, ready to rock with the SPY. Do we have any other stocks that we need to have reviewed in the next 7 minutes? Actually, I'll take a look at PRZO real quick. While you guys are typing inside of chat, let me look at PRZO. New IPO a couple weeks ago. Let's just mark up the IPO the last couple of weeks, right? The high, the low. And then let's mark up this gap here on PRZO. Right here between these 2 candles. Let's mark up that gap. And let's go mark this little gap as well. Right, so like these are like the most obvious levels. You got the gap between the low day and the high day. You got a gap between low day, high day. You got that weekly low. You got that IPO high. So those would be the levels that I would start with and then go right into my intraday time frame and say, holy crap, every level was 100 beautifully. Look at that. Right to the daily, marking up our levels, and then going intraday and seeing these levels respected beautifully. That's how powerful it is to do a higher time frame analysis, right? Have the confidence to identify these key levels and then go into your intraday chart and see how beautifully they're respected. It's a beautiful thing, right? Super powerful. Master that skill set, right? Master your ability to get prepared in the morning, mark up these daily levels, and have confidence that these levels are going to be respected intraday for day trades. So I would say right now with PRZO, you got $2 support, right? You're sitting right around 2 to 206 is pretty decent support here with PRZO. And it basically is just the gap between these 2 lows of day, right? You see you have a low of day on August 1st, low of day on August 3rd, gap down, high of day at $2. So you see that all we're doing is we're connecting these 2 low of day and this high of day, which creates this gap. So this gives us a zone of support or resistance, right? Really depends on where we're at. If we're above it, it's support. If we're below it, it's resistance. So it really depends on where we're at. But we identify the level on the daily, go into our intraday time frame and say, we're above it. We're coming down into it. It's probably going to hold as support. So I would be watching PRZO above $2. Super simple stuff. All right, PRZO can hold 2. You got room back up towards around 280, towards around $3. They're on PRZO. And if PRZO can ever break 3, you have room up to the IPO close at 360. And then you have room up to the IPO open and high, right? So you got the IPO open and high up towards around like 409 to like 415 here on PRZO, guys. All right. So that's what I would be doing. I'd be looking to see if PRZO can hold 2, right? And have a nice bounce. I mean, so much potential to the upside. Back up to 275 to $3. Anything over 3, you got room to 360. Anything over 360, you can see upwards of 415 today here on PRZO. Now, here's one thing I want to point out. Like, if we don't hold $2, it's still in play. Look at your 5-minute hiccup candle, right? PRZO actually has a solid 5-minute hiccup candle in pre-market. Mark up its lower shadow. That's 175. So even if you fail to hold this daily zone as support and you keep moving lower, you could see a nice dip buy at 175, right? We know hiccup candle, lower shadows are great points of support for dip buys, right? We've seen it happen thousands of times where you actually have a nice hiccup candle dip buy, right? Where you have, right, a hiccup candle in the middle of an uptrend. The stock comes back down to where that hiccup candle was into that zone. It bounces, right? Hiccup candle dip buy. So we've seen hiccup candle dip buys a lot of times, right? And so again, keeping that on watch to see if we do get that nice little hiccup candle dip buy here on PRZO today. And that would put you down around 175. And then here's the thing. If it cracks below 175, it's dead, right? If it falls below 175 and it doesn't bounce, just take it off your watch list, right? Because it's probably going to come back down to 150 anyway. And what's the point of watching it? But ideally, holding above $2 looks pretty good. And I actually like the way it's moving. I like how it's setting up. I like these daily levels. Let's make it one of our top 3 stocks for the day. All right. I'm going to actually put the stocks in this order. I'm going to say MF is number 1. I like it. It's a prior day mover. We have some really great key levels. I like MF. Number one. Number two, I like PRZO. I think there's great potential. Number three, watching SVFD, looking to see maybe this trend line holds. If not, it's coming down to $1. And then back burner TTOO at this point in time with TTOO. Market's not even open yet, and Steve is already done for the day. What happened? No freaking way. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Let's go. Steve, VTGN, locking in $2,000 in pre-market? Bro, VTGN, what are you doing out here? What is he doing? Why is he out here just making all the monies? VTGN, absolutely freaking exploding to the upside. Oh my goodness. This is one of the biggest moves I think I've ever seen. Not really, but this thing is freaking on fire. Where are we at right now? 25 buckarooskies. Wow. All right, let's take the next minute. Let's get prepared on VTGN. Support. I mean, let's say we got some support right here off these lows. 23.15 is going to be some good support. If we crack below that level, I mean, your next daily support level is down at $10. So, like, let's be real. You don't want to see it crack below 23.15. And here was your close. Here was your close prior to that massive gap down. And that close prior to the gap down was at 32.15. So we got a couple points here to start with VTGN. So we got 32.15 is going to be some tough resistance here. And we got some okay support at 23.15. If we crack below 23.15, you have room down the, that's a bad number. 16.75. It was 16.66. That was the bad number. You could see it down to 16.75. And then I would say $20. So these are going to be your lower levels of support. Okay. Right now, you're starting to crack below that 23.15 level. You could definitely see a $20 bounce, but your next best daily support level is 16.75. Okay. If you crack below 16.75, the thing's going to drop another $6 to the downside, right? So be careful with this one. If it falls below 16.75, it's most likely coming down to 10. Right now, let's see if we get a nice $20 dip buy. We are trying to bounce at $20. Let's see if VTGN can hold 20 and give us a nice little $20 dip buy, right? So let's keep VTGN on watch as well. Let's make that our number 3 stock, right? So 23.15 is resistance. If we break back above 23.15, we have room to 32.14. $20 is your current support level. If you crack below 20, you could look for a nice bounce at 16.75. You crack below 16.75, she should be coming down towards around $10. VTGN, definitely a top stock. Let's have an awesome day. Let's crush the freaking market, ladies and gentlemen. And let's have an amazing start to week number 2, right? This is week 2 of August. Let's have an amazing start. Let's crush it. Let's make it happen. Let's take some good trades and watch that money flow into those accounts, baby. Let's go. VTGN, I mean, for me, I see this sucker, it's hit $100 at one point, Steve. So maybe you're looking at, I'm not sure. Maybe, I have no idea. I don't even know what to say. Maybe the chart's not updated correctly. I'm not sure. All right, YouTubers, have a good day. TikTokers, have a good day. We are officially inside a chat with the team. We're going to make it happen. We're going to look for these amazing trades, take some great trades today, make some great profit. We're going to make it happen. So let's get to it. Have a great day, everybody on the talk. Have a great day over on the tube. And I'll see you guys back here on YouTube tomorrow, 8:45, and then TikTok, 8:15, baby. Let's get it happen. Let's get it.